Hello and welcome to the programme which looks at the Holy Land. I am Paul Calvert. Mark 16 verse 6 from the New King James Bible says this, "But he said to them, Do not be alarmed. You seek Jesus of Nazareth, who was crucified. He is risen. He is not here. See the place where they laid him." I'm with the Reverend Simon Holland, who is the director of the Garden Tomb in Jerusalem. Now, Easter is coming up very soon, but we have a war in the Holy Land. Do you have any plans for Easter this year at the Garden Tomb, Simon?
We don't for Easter as such. We're going to have a service that goes out. We're going to pre-record that. Sadly, although this place is a place of hope and resurrection, and we still believe that message because we want that message to go out through the service that will be on Easter Sunday morning via CBN. But because of the restrictions here in Jerusalem where we cannot allow people more than 50 to gather, they can only gather if they have a public kind of regulated shelter. Well, we don't really have that here. So sadly, like in COVID, we're having to do it as it were. We'll still do the recording from here, the readings, the preaching, the band, everything, but we won't be able to allow people into it. Yeah.
So luckily we've had over 2.5 years of war, and you have been able to do it during the war times, but this time, and again, so in code, so this isn't the first time this has happened like this?
No, I mean, mainly like this, it happened in COVID, where obviously we couldn't have people come in at that time. In the war, we have been able to do the service like last year and even the year before, where we had Nicky Gumbel one year, and then we had Phil Tuttle from America through Walk Through the Bible as speakers. The speaker book for this year was Doug Williams, a pastor from England. Sadly, he had to cancel because his flights are cancelled. So we're all trying to put it together as best as we can now to give honour to God and to glory to him, because we want that message of the hope and resurrection to go out, especially during these difficult times that we're all facing here.
If a peace deal happens very, very quickly, would you be able to put something together for the community, or would it just still not be able to do it?
My hope is that if somehow the restrictions lift, we can actually open the doors on Good Friday between 12 and 3 for people to come in for quiet reflection and prayer. And then on Easter Sunday, we'd open from 7 till 10 to give a place for people to come for their worship, for their prayer, for their reflection on this amazing event of the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ. So that's my hope. That's what I'm aiming towards at the moment. We have no team here as such. We've had to sadly say goodbye to a large number of the team. We have most of the guides who come from overseas have all gone home via Jordan by Easter Sunday. So, but we will do what we can. You know, we want this to be a place where there's peace, worship, welcome, and hope.
It really is a place of hope here, isn't it? And there's such a wonderful atmosphere. It must be really sad just to see everything so quiet.
To me, it's just not the garden. You know, we have a beautiful garden, yes, of trees and plants and life and exuberance of life, really, at the moment, because the blossom is out and everything. It looks beautiful. But actually, when there are no people here, it almost feels like the life of the garden has just gone. And it's so quiet. And we miss that. We miss the worship of different nations from throughout the world coming and worshipping together in their own language and in the different little areas they meet in for communion and preaching after their tour is finished. Sadly, the garden has gone quiet.
Now, just before we'd done this interview, the app on your phone went off. So what did you have to do? What happened?
Yeah, well, we get mercifully a pre-warning of about 5 minutes to say there are missiles heading in your direction. So you have that time to gather yourself. If it's late at night, you have time to get dressed. And then we go down, pound our feet down the steps, along the pathways, and then we go into our make-do shelters here in the garden. For the resident team, it's like a little flat that doesn't have any windows or many windows in. If there are people in the garden, as we had this morning, a small group from Colombia suddenly turned up who'd come via Jordan. So they've gone to another chapel to keep safe. The main priority throughout all of this in the garden is we do want to worship, we do want to praise, but we also need to adhere to the law and to keep people safe during this time. We have had shrapnel fall quite close to the garden in the Old City and Sheikh Jarrah, very near to us, and we certainly heard it when it fell. So we have to take this seriously now, you know, as we always have in a way, but we have to find shelter, find cover. When the sirens go off, we have 1.5 minutes to get to that place. And then we wait, usually for around 10 minutes, or until we get this great message, the event has ended, which I always link into the event has ended at the cross, where Jesus says it's finished and we can begin again in the resurrected life of Christ. So, you know, all of this is worked together in some way that we keep safe, but our ultimate shelter is in God.
Was there a boom in the sky? And I imagine the Iron Dome was doing its job.
Yeah, the Iron Dome, it is an amazing defense mechanism, and all the different levels, from the David Sling to the new iron laser, all these kinds of defense mechanisms that Israel has against the missiles that come. So we're very thankful for that. But it is a very loud boom that you hear. And one evening we literally heard a missile flying overhead. You can hear the whistle of it. I remember my mother talking about in the Second World War going by. And you have to run, basically. Yeah.
Well. It must be very painful to see everything closed down over this time. And it must be exciting to see a tourist come in today as well.
Yeah, we were quite surprised to just see this group turn up in a bus who've come via Jordan. They're determined to sort of just come to Jerusalem. A lot of it is closed, obviously. But when people have made that effort, we've just took them in. And obviously we've led them to shelter this morning when the alarm went off. But we're really grateful to see them. And it's just the many nations that come from all over the world here. It's just sad that that's suddenly cut short because there literally are no planes flying in and out of Tel Aviv at the moment. So we're not getting the normal pilgrims that would come in.
In a good year, how many pilgrims do you actually get here visiting the Garden Tomb?
Well, in a good year, it would be around 400,000 to 500,000 people. Wow. Last year, it was around 84,000 because obviously the war was still on then and people have lost confidence because it isn't an easy decision to make to come. We know in a way people will always come back to the Holy Land because it's where Jesus walked and people want to walk where he walked. Not in a romantic kind of way, but just to touch and connect in a very real way with the places that Jesus himself encountered. And hopefully that refreshes their encounter, which we find here at the Garden. From
here at the Garden Tomb here in Jerusalem, the gospel goes out to the generations. So you tell the people here the gospel message and they can take it home with them.
They do. And, we can't do Easter here, but wherever people are in the world today, they can share that Easter message, that death is defeated, that conflict doesn't win, and that life does conquer and love conquers all. It's such a great message to share during this time when it becomes very real that we're in touch with our mortality, that, sadly people have died in this land and in others, obviously, due to the conflict. But we have this message that death doesn't have the final word. And so, we share that with everybody who comes and we've done it since 1894 and we will keep doing it as long as we can. There are messages going out on Easter Sunday, I say, then we're following it with other Easter messages as the garden has to close, because we literally cannot open for safety reasons. Yeah.
It must be really sad for you as the director of the Garden Tomb that you have to let people go and, say, sorry, we can't give you any jobs at this time. It must be a real burden on your heart to actually have to do that.
That's one of those painful experiences this war, sitting in this very room with people saying, I'm sorry, but we cannot afford to keep you on anymore. For some, they get support from the government. For those who work in West Bank, there is no support. So that's been the most painful of all, because it not just affects them, but their families and sometimes other members of the family as well. We hope they will, come back one day, very soon. But until then, unfortunately, because the garden doesn't charge people to come in, it's free. The message of the gospel is free. So we just rely on the donations of people coming in. So when the people stop coming in, the donations stop coming in, and therefore we don't have the resources. People have been incredibly generous, and we're so thankful for that. But even now, we're finding that the resources that were given in the past are beginning to not evaporate as such, but they're just not there in the same way. We tried to keep the team for the 2.5 years through the war, and we've been very successful at that through as I say, the generous donations of other people. But sadly, just at this point, it's become too difficult. With no prospects of future people coming for quite a while, possibly. Some are suggesting in the autumn, but it may not be now till March 27. Wow. That's a long time. Yeah.
Have you been here for the full nearly 2.5 years of the conflict, which in Gaza, with October the 7th until now?
Yeah, we were here on October the 7th, 23. We were just up in the staff room doing a time of worship as we do before the beginning of the day. The sirens went off and then 2,000 missiles came across to us. So we were very painfully aware of that. And it's almost a repeat of that going on now in one sense. And, there have been times where we've had to go back to where I live in England, but most of the time my wife and I have been here along with the team who, in a sense, don't have a choice to leave. So we are with them. Yeah.
Can there be peace in this beautiful garden when the sirens are blaring and there's booms overhead and going into the bomb shelter? Can there still be peace here, peace in people's hearts at this time?
I believe that very much so, that That's the whole point for me of Jesus, who stood and calmed the storm when the wind and waves are blowing hard, as they are at the moment. He does speak peace, and it's not a sort of a glassy calm of peace. It's a much deeper peace that holds us through this storm as we experience really the peace of God that does pass understanding. You wouldn't think we would feel it. And a lot of the time here, life does go on in normal in a way. People still go to the shops, get their food, and, life is, in a sense, normal. And there are just these sort of pockets where suddenly we have to stop being normal and attend to what's happening, the attack that's happening to us. And then we emerge from the shelters, and we see the blossom, we hear the bird song, and we breathe, and we begin to live again. And the garden is an incredible place to be at the moment in terms of peace. Yeah.
Now, we have seen rockets get through and we have seen people get killed. So when the siren goes off or the app goes off on your phone, do you have a sense of fear in this?
Yeah, at times we do. I think because it's very real that obviously some missiles can get through, some shrapnel does fall once they've been destroyed by the Iron Dome. And therefore it's a very real thing. It's very hard for our families who are away in different parts of the world at the moment, watching on, as it were, and particularly through the press, where it seems the whole place is being obliterated. But yet there are definite moments where you can feel quite fearful. And not just for yourself, but actually for where you hear things land or you hear things, very loudly blow up around you. And who is that affecting? It may not be affecting us personally, but we know it's affecting people who are our near neighbours. So that's very difficult to live with at times, yeah.
What do your family think about you staying here? And also as well, do the people here actually appreciate the fact that you've stayed here during this time?
I mean, my family have been very good. They know we're called here by God, and therefore we're here for such a time as this, and this is the time that we're in. So we're very thankful for their prayers, their confidence. We look forward to seeing them shortly. I am due to go back for a board meeting in the UK shortly, and we will meet up with the family then. But for those who stay here, I think it's part of the incarnational message of the gospel that Jesus came and was among us in the mess of it all, in the darkness of it all. And so part of our living out the gospel is to be with people in their place of fear, in place of concern and anxiety, and to keep ministering, to keep loving, to keep praying with them. And supporting them as best we can. Yeah.
What is the message that's going out this Easter?
The message going out as I'm doing it is actually about Peter running to the tomb, and how in a way that gives us a picture of us running from our tomb-like shelters, as it were, out into the world with this message. He's alive. He's alive. And Peter, who, denied, failed, was flawed in a way, suddenly becomes this person who's filled with courage, who is filled with the ability to tell people about Jesus and to transform not his life only, but theirs. And that's what the resurrection does. It transforms us. And it's like a movement that, as Peter was running, God is running to us all the time. And that running still happens even in these troubled times, because the Easter message is this movement of life, of God coming to us and encouraging us to follow him, to answer his call, and to keep living our lives for him. Because we know that one day we will see him face to face, whether that's quite soon because of what's happening, or whether it's in the future. But that is the most secure thing that we have in the garden at the moment.
It's obviously very difficult to get here at the moment, so can people go onto your website and have a virtual tour while they're waiting for their tour to actually happen?
Yeah, they can. They can do that. They can click on www.gardentomb.com and they'll find Caesar, our head guide, takes them round the garden, and it's a beautiful experience. It's not the same as being here, I want to add that. But obviously it will be part of that. And you can, go onto our website and find the services on Easter Sunday that will beam out across the world. Last year, I think we reached about 300,000 people. So that's, again, a great thing that we have here too, in the media days we live in, as we all got used to in COVID and now in this war, that we can still communicate this amazing message that God is for us, who can be against us.
So remind us again of your website address for people who'd like to watch the service on Easter Sunday from the Garden Tomb.
It's www.gardentomb.com.
Well, Simon, thank you very much for sharing today.
Thank you, Paul. It's great to see you again.
Thank you for joining us today. Pray that God will move by his mighty power in the Holy Land and bring his peace.